How does a whole nation play catch-up in a tech race that's already moving at the speed of light? Today, we're diving into the super high-stakes world of big data, especially in manufacturing. And we're going to look at a pretty bold strategy for one of the world's biggest tech leaders to close a really critical gap. Let's break it down. So, what's the prize we're all talking about? Well, get a load of this number. The global big data market is set to absolutely skyrocket to nearly $230 billion by 2025. And that's coming from about $139 billion back in 2020. This isn't just growth, you guys. It's an explosion. And believe me, every industrial nation wants a piece of that action. Now let's zoom in a little bit. If you look just at the manufacturing sector, the growth is, frankly, even more mind-blowing. We're talking about a compound annual growth rate of over 33%. This is literally the digital revolution happening on the factory floor, right now. Everything from predicting when a machine's going to fail to optimizing these huge global supply chains. Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the massive opportunity, this data gold rush. Then we'll get into the specific challenge South Korea's up against. We'll talk about why the old ways of doing things just don't work anymore. And then we'll unpack the big solution, a playbook that could totally redefine what it means to be a tech leader. All right, first up, the data gold rush. You see, the amount of data just pouring out of smart factories these days is creating this economic opportunity that's just unprecedented. So the race is on. Who can collect it, analyze it, and actually make money off it the fastest? It's a top priority for every single major industrial power out there. So that brings us to the heart of our story today, Korea's Tech Gap Challenge. Now, you might think of South Korea as this global giant in electronics and manufacturing, and they are. But in the world of big data, they're finding themselves in a really high-stakes race against the clock. And here's the problem in a nutshell. Right now, the United States is pretty much seen as the world leader in big data tech. When you compare them directly, South Korea's technology level is only at about 71% of the US. For a country that's so known for its tech, that's a pretty significant gap. So, what does that 71% actually mean in the real world? Well, it translates to a technology gap of roughly 2 years. In the world of AI and big data, let me tell you, 2 years can feel like an eternity. It puts a nation at a serious competitive disadvantage. And this brings up a really crucial point. It's all about speed. In this kind of environment, the old school approach of just, doing long-term research and development in-house, it's just too slow. You can't close a gap this big that way. It's the question you're probably asking, right? If this tech is so important and you're a tech powerhouse, why not just throw a bunch of money at your own labs and build it yourself? Why isn't that strategy good enough anymore? Well, the answer comes from a true legend in the tech industry. John Chambers, the former CEO of Cisco, he famously said this: "It's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow." And that just nails it. In today's landscape, taking years to develop something from scratch is a luxury you just can't afford, especially when your competitors can go out and buy it overnight. So, if building is too slow, what do you do? Well, the proposed solution is something called the A&D playbook. At its core, it's a buy, don't build strategy. That A&D, it stands for acquisition and development. Let's be super clear about what this means. A&D is basically a strategy where you go out and you actively buy innovation from the outside. That could be a specific piece of tech, a brilliant team of engineers, or even a whole company. The goal is to leapfrog your own development process and get to the market way faster. And there's a perfect example of this working in the real world: Cisco. They've used this A&D playbook for decades to stay on top. Think about it. Over 175 acquisitions since 1993. When new markets like the Internet of Things or the cloud started popping up, did they wait around to build everything themselves? No way. They bought their way in, and they maintained their dominance through sheer speed. So for South Korea, this strategy would be laser-focused. The report points to 3 key areas that are just ripe for acquisition. Number 1, tech that can automatically grow, collect, and clean up data. Number 2, smart systems that can actually predict what's going to happen next. And number 3, tech for what's called edge analysis. That means analyzing data right where it's being created, like on a machine in a factory. And that also helps different systems work together. Now, it's really important to remember that none of this is happening in a bubble. We have to look at the international chessboard, see how all the other big players are handling their own data strategies. And everybody's got a different game plan. The US is focused on a big federal data strategy. The EU, they're building their own cloud, called Gaia X, because they want to control their own data. China is pushing its strategy through these huge national 5-year plans. And Japan is all about getting the public and private sectors to share data. All this global competition just makes the situation even more urgent. Okay, let's bring it all together. What's the real path to leadership here? What is the one core takeaway from all of this? So let's just lay out all the pieces. The market? It's exploding. South Korea? They're behind by a critical 2 years. The old way of doing R&D, it's just not fast enough to compete anymore. So this acquisition and development strategy, it really seems to offer a proven, fast way to close that gap. In this kind of race, making smart acquisitions isn't just an option. It's being presented as the absolute key to grabbing a leadership spot for the future. And that leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. In a world where speed is everything, the ultimate competitive advantage, has the game changed for good? In this global race for tech dominance, is buying the new building?